Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I am here with Samy Kobrosly, and Samy is in the snack business big time, folks, and getting bigger. Thanks so much, Samy, for joining me again.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
I had a chance. I'll be able to brag that I knew you when you were in your early 30s and before you had your first $1 trillion in sales and everything, and we're in 500 countries.
But you can't really brag because I was still bald now anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can't say I knew him when he had hair, but you can say I knew him after year 5. So
I've got good news for me and you. Genomics. They're going to be able to fix all that stuff, okay?
Oh, I've already told people that, I'm working so hard today just so that I can go overseas and get myself a hair transplant surgery. That's the end goal. So
talk about, Samy, you got started, you did your own manufacturing, but like all manufacturing, when you're making things, a lot of money involved, and then a lot of commitments when you get these big box, big brand stores. They say, unbelievable, I'm in 100, 200, 300, 500 stores. Well, that's a lot of inventory, a lot of product in cardboard boxes to be shipped, and the logistics and all of this stuff. Anything can go wrong at any time. And so it takes money. At that point, you got to spend money to gear up to be able to do that. And like you said, you're sitting right now in a 10,000 square foot facility that didn't exist, at the time you were in your apartment, So you decide, hey, we need to get some money. We need to get some funding. And somehow you got on Shark Tank. Talk about that. Was that a little daunting, or was that a challenge? Is that an exciting thing, or?
Oh my God, I was scared crapless. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. It is scary, because it's one of those things that it's almost surreal. You know what I mean? I guess if any entrepreneur, especially if you've been around for the past 10 years, you've watched an episode of Shark Tank, right?
Yeah, right.
And I definitely watched my fair share of Shark Tank episodes. And so, when we got that call, like, hey, we're actually going to fly you out to Los Angeles and you're actually going to pitch in front of the Sharks. I mean, it was scary. I practiced a lot and I still choked. Even though I practiced so much, I still choked a little bit at the beginning. And that's just how it is because, you're walking in there and you're seeing, 4 to 5, right? 5 of America's probably most prominent or prolific, well-known investors. Right. And that's intimidating, and you don't have they don't really know much about you. You know what I mean? They don't know anything about you, to be honest. And so you just have that time to tell them about your story, tell them the details, try to remember all those numbers that you crammed in your head, before you got there.
Right.
And, and you get done. And when all is said and done, that's it. You walk out and you go, whoa, I just made a deal with Mark Cuban. That is crazy, But I think what people also forget is there's still a lot that goes on afterwards.
Right.
His team still does the due diligence. I still have to send a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork back and forth. We had a lot of calls, but that moment for us was big, and it happened where we taped it in the summertime, but it didn't air until the fall. And so it was
really?
The hardest kept secret. It was the hardest secret to keep. Sorry. It was we kept it really well.
Right.
It was so hard to keep because we couldn't tell our marketing people. We couldn't tell people that we worked with. We couldn't tell the production people. We couldn't tell anybody because we wanted to make sure the deal was finalized before we told anyone what happened, during my taping. And then, we're waiting. We're like, well, is it actually going to air? And then we don't want to tell anyone because we don't want it to leak because they'll pull the show if they think it leaked. You know what I mean? And so, it was daunting. It was fun. But I will say we did have some pretty good sleuths on our team that just started going while they were shipping stuff on the FedEx account, looked at, the past people I shipped stuff to on the FedEx account. And when they saw Mark Cuban's name on there, they go, I think I know who the deal happened with.
So when you go through that thing, how do you focus on you had to be pretty confident because, you'd worked like a dog, you'd had success, you knew you had a good product. You didn't need them to agree. You knew what you had.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that that's interesting to me is you got a lot of money for a little bit of interest in the company. And so you weren't selling your soul to get them involved. How much of, I'm sure, you had places for the money to go, but what did it, what has been the impact of being able to plug in with someone who's so far up the ladder? Because basically these guys are dream team of American business. If there's going to be a Hall of Fame, if there was a award ceremony for American business every year, they would have already been inducted and or gotten their business Oscar or whatever it is. But dealing with people like that, what did you notice other than he knew how to do things or they knew how to do things? What did you notice, learn from how they went about their business, how they engaged in conversations, what they locked in on, and particularly Mark?
Yeah, I think look at Mark, even like all of our investors for that matter. Like the one thing I've noticed about all of them is they're all scrappy. They don't just say like, it's like someone like Mark who could literally just write a check for anything. Like, oh, I got to do that here. Check, solve it. Check, solve it. Here's a check. Here's some more money. Solve it. Like, no, he's scrappy. He's like, wait, well, what can we do internally? How can we figure this out? What can we use that we already have in house to help solve this problem? You know what I mean? And that scrappiness is really what, it harkens back when, we were starting off, we were just scrappy, making everything from hand, trying our best, like building this facility. Like we did this all of ourselves. Like, it was us painting the walls, us doing the floors, like Pedro and I, like we installed machines. Like Pedro builds machines now himself just because they show up and like, I don't get here for a couple hours. He's like, I already finished it, boss. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that, that someone like Mark Cuban, like that they actually believe in and that they instill in you as well. It's that grinding, it's that working hard. Like, dude, the dopest thing about Mark and the thing that, is he's inspiring to us is if I send him an email, he'll write me back in 15 minutes max. You know what I mean? It's not one of those you send an email, oh, okay, you'll get back in a couple of days. Like this guy has better stuff to do, but you can tell that he also, the better things that he does, he's getting it done now. And he gets stuff done immediately. Like he's all like just crushing. I can send him an email, boom, here's his response, here's his ideas, here's his thoughts, back and forth, next. Now he's on to his next problem. He's on to his next solution. You know what I mean?
One thing that just, it's great to hear you say that because I've always told people that the easiest people to work with are the $1 million earners, the super successful. And it could be people who are head of charities or built, they built something great or done something great and not just making money, but it's the super successful people that are the easiest to work with. Because number one, they answer your mail, text, phone call, and you get an answer. And they're not dilly-dallying around with it. And the other thing is, if they say they're going to do something, they do it. It's not like, oh, we had a meeting then. That was for me. Was that this week? Oh, I was supposed to bring this. Those are the dumbasses that, the people that are they've just got mashed potatoes for brains. And it could be that a year, 2 or 3 or 4, they're going to be polished up and solid as a rock, but they're at that mashed potato brain stage of their life. And there's a phrase that helped me lock into this early in my career. I don't know what book or person I got it from, but the thing is, you got to be specific to be dynamic. And these guys are, you don't want to be a butter knife. You want to be razor sharp, where you can cut through. You can understand what you're hearing. You can give the answer back. And it's like, this would drive you nuts too. I listened to, who was it? Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who have actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelemwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up. Kramer. I was driving back. I had a 4-hour drive yesterday. I was listening to Kramer, and he was interviewing, God bless her, our Secretary of Treasury or something. And
Janet Yellow, that's my girl.
Yeah, it wasn't Yellow. It was somebody else, but it was one of those cabinet members, and he asked her 3 questions, and 3 for 3 she answered totally off the subject. It's just like, what do you think of trees? Well, I think elephants are interesting animals. It was kind of like that. And he had to treat the office with respect. He couldn't call her butt out on it, say, well, that's a great answer, but I wasn't talking about elephants. There was no elephant in that sentence I gave you. It was trees, and 3 for 3. And it was like, at the end, he had to be gracious. Thanks so much. It's so great to have you on, yada, yada, and pretend that she even, if we were playing darts, she didn't even hit the wall, much less the bullseye, And so successful people are precise, though. I mean, if they shoot it, they're used to going for bullseyes, and they train themselves to go for the bullseye. And when they let it go, they expect to hit the darn bullseye, or they're going to fix something so they can hit it the next time. So talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's about that hyper focus. A lot of people like to brag and talk about how they're multitaskers, right? But multitasking is probably the worst thing you can effing do for yourself. Where in all realities, if you have the multitasking where I have 10 emails open, 5 paper or 5 worksheets, plus I'm trying to do something over here. No, I hyper focus on the one thing. I give it my razor sharp, focus. I get there, boom, done. Next thing, boom, done. Next thing, boom, done. And I feel like, that's a lot of people feel like they need to wear a bunch of hats and hold a bunch of plates at once, when in all realities, the best cooks in the world can just make one plate much faster than anyone else can do 10 at a time. You know what I mean? They can do one plate 10 times faster than you can do 10 plates one time.
Yeah.
And that's what I focus on. And I think I kind of look at it I remember just someone telling me, they're like, Sammy, if you're driving down the highway and you're trying to go as fast as possible, right? If you're trying to drive as fast as possible, you're not changing lanes every 20 feet.
Right.
Because that's going to slow you down.
Right.
So what you got to do is stick in your lane, drive as fast as possible. And then when you're ready to get to another lane, get over there and then drive as fast as possible. Because if your goal is speed, you need to have as little lane change as possible. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's I think about that with my with mentally how I do work on a day-to-day basis. I show up and I know I have X, Y, and Z to do, and I'm doing X first. Boom. Hit to the point of X that X can't do anything more. Go to Y, got it. To the point that I can't do anything more. Go to Z, got it. Go to the point I can't do anything more. And yeah, clearly I'm going to go back and work on those again. But, it's just breaking it down and not trying to hold 10 plates at once, but just trying to get one plate there as fast as possible, then coming back as quickly as possible.
Well, the advantage of that, and you see this with super successful people, their organization stays with them. They're key people. One of the things, like in your business, my business, we're only as good past a certain point as your team. And if your team is in constant turnover because you're changing direction, you're changing your philosophy, you're emotionally up, emotionally down, you're changing the priority of the business here and priority there. And, they're trying to learn how to play basketball, but the rules are changing all the time, And the stable people, the focused people, the consistent people, it's easier for people to follow in line and get really, really good at what they're doing. And that causes them to be worth more, to get paid more, but also for them, I know you get a lot of satisfaction out of your job and your accomplishment, but the people inside your organization, I know they get tons of satisfaction from their progress and their role they play and what they get done on a daily basis. And but that comes from the consistency and focus of the leader, don't you believe?
I think it's I would never tell anyone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so even the people that are mopping the floors know that if they don't show up tomorrow, I'm going to be the one mopping the floors because it still has to get done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like,
yeah. It's all important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all important. Like every little bit there is important, and knowing that I would never ask anyone to do something that I would not ask of myself, you know, which means like, hey, I'm not going to ask you to put in more hours if I'm not in here also putting more hours in. You know what I mean? And, you know, and I think that there's almost like this trust. Like, I think it's funny that we're all adults, but yet some jobs try and micromanage people to this extent that, you know, they might as well be children again.
Right.
You know, we need you here at this time every day of the week at da-da-da-da. Like, no, here's what we do. We tell them we need to make this many snacks this week. Yeah. Every day we need to make this much, you know, this many pounds of snacks.
Yeah.
You know, if they decide to work from 6 to whatever or 7 to whatever, if they decide to work, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they want to take Thursday, Friday off, I don't care. As long as the numbers, as long as everything matches up. Like if they tell me that, hey, we're going to take Friday off because our kids have, you know, a school assignment, you know, that we want to be at, like, okay, cool. You want to pick up on Saturday instead? That's fine with us. Like we all work together. I think being flexible and then them knowing, I go, yeah, just tell me what you guys want. What do you guys need? They go, hey, so we want to do this on Sunday. I was like, great. What do you guys need from me? How can I help you? What can I offer to make your life easier so that you can run in that lane as fast as possible and not have to worry about changing lanes because batteries went dead or I need screws for this machine or something like that. And so I sit here in the factory, you know, and this is my place to be. And when I'm not developing new Snacklins flavors, I'm like, how can I help? What can I do? What, you know, do we do? And I'm thinking about ways to help them make their lives easier, their jobs easier. And, you know, Kevin, our CEO, he's in the same mindset and he does that, you know, but on the executive level, right? Where he's, you know, how can I help everyone execute their job easier? Knowing that's going to be just as effective because they're going to want to now, they're going to like it more. They're going to want to put in more, right? Like,
so you've just given the best explanation of what leadership is, you know, superior leadership is. You're doing things for people they can't do for themselves to create the environment where they can excel. And things that are coming up down the road they're going to trip over. It's your job to go in front of them, fix that, make sure that's not there so they never have to run into that thing that's going to cause them to not be able to stay in their lane and go and perform as good as they are. Thanks so much, Sammy, for this. And if you don't, you know, I would love to have a short follow-up session and next time ask you particularly this: what do you think has caused you not to just get the deal, but to excel after you got the deal on Shark Tank? And some of the principles, you know, related to that is principles that have been huge difference makers for you that you probably figured out yourself. Maybe you heard from other people, but then things that people have told you that were absolutely horribly wrong. And if you'd paid attention, you would get off track. So really get into your mind about your operating instincts and how that mind works to make decisions. Maybe we can spend a few minutes on that. Thanks so much, Sammy. This has been great.
Dude, that's been awesome. Can't wait to chat again, Larry.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelemwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.